I feel really honoured to be here talking to you today. It's something that I'm quite passionate about. And just to elaborate a little bit on my background and I suppose give you a bit of context as to why I'm here. So I think about my experience in, I guess, 3 different aspects. The first being my technical training, which is my education and the academic side of things. So I've done a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and various professional qualifications in HR. So I guess you could call that the textbook for theory, the academic side of my experience. And then the 2 other aspects, firstly being working for a multinational company. I was in the UK side of that business, though. Very corporate, working in retail. We were the largest private employer in the UK. And that was a very corporate, very structured experience. I was there for about 6 years or so in various HR positions. And once I felt like I'd had enough of that, I'd kind of done that bit, I wanted to move on and try something else. So I moved into hospitality, and not just hospitality, but I suppose a smaller environment. So went to a startup at the time, which was Harrison Hall. So a high growth startup environment in coffee, and spent a couple of years there before moving to Taylor Street, which is obviously a smaller again and more premium brand. So what I'm getting at is, I suppose I have a diverse range of experience, but the one thing that has been really consistent amid all of that experience is my passion for people. And really my passion for helping people develop, helping people progress, and achieve the things from their career that they wish to achieve. And I suppose that's why I'm here, because I am passionate about that, and I bring a slightly different perspective to things. So I don't claim to be stood in front of you as a technical coffee expert. I'm certainly not. But hopefully what I can bring is a different perspective and give you an outlook on your career and a way that you can equip yourself to best achieve the things that you want to from your career. So hopefully that sounds exciting to you. So let's get cracking then. I wanted to start, I suppose, thinking about why people become professional baristas in the first place. And I suppose many people start their journey in specialty coffee as a barista. And I'm sure that many of you are aware of the Professional Barista Apprenticeship Program that Ben from One Church in Brighton set up. I just wanted to show a short video about that to start with.
I heard about the apprenticeship when I'd just left my job at the time, where it was basically just front of house cinema work, and I saw the apprenticeships advertisements, their posters around town. Yeah, they just had a coffee, it's a career now posted, and I was looking for something that would be a bit more involving. I still kind of wanted to stick with customer service just because that's something I know I'm good at, but something that had a bit more of a craft to it, a bit more pull. I definitely wanted to find something I could sink my teeth into, and after I met with Ben and Laura, who kind of were running the apprenticeship, it just really, yeah, they really advertised it as something like that, and that was really appealing. Yeah, I mean, the training, I think, was brilliant. It was always well structured. You know, every week had its focus, whether that was someone coming in to talk importing or like a week on latte art or something. You're not just learning front of house baristering, you're learning the whole industry, encouraging your own opinions on and thoughts on these things rather than just, this is how this is done. I guess what I know to a certain extent is that I'm probably not going to want to be like front of house barista forever, but also knowing that coffee has so many kind of different avenues to go down and possibilities, so basically kind of try and just get as much an experience of those as I currently can, which there is a lot of opportunity for.
So So I wanted to show this video because in my time so far in specialty coffee, I've been involved in the hiring of hundreds of baristas. And I think Lewis is a shining example, actually, of what I hear an awful lot during that hiring process. So he wanted to learn a craft. He wanted to get involved in something that he felt was quite special and something that meant something. And yet even Lewis recognizes that being a barista possibly isn't a forever job. And I actually hear that time and time again at interview. Most of the time, you don't really hear people say, I want to become a professional barista, full stop. Normally, it's more like, I want to become a professional barista because I want to learn more about coffee. Oops, started again. So I want to learn to be a professional barista so that I can learn more about coffee, or indeed to open my own cafe one day, or even just to support myself so that when I do achieve that lifelong ambition of being a famous rock star, I've actually managed to earn some money doing something I enjoy at the same time. And I mean, these are just a few examples. There's a whole host of reasons that people give for wanting to become a professional barista. And I think as an industry, that's okay. We recognize that being a barista isn't necessarily that forever job. But what being a barista does is provide foundational knowledge and a platform to go on and do something else, to do something different. So if being a barista provides us with a platform to go on and do something else, we need to really understand, firstly, what that something else is, and secondly, how our experience as a barista can help us to achieve that something else that we want to do. So we have to firstly look at identifying the opportunities. And I'm really passionate about this because I think so often in life we make decisions based on what we love, what we enjoy, and what we're good at. So I see no reason why our career should be any different. Now, clearly what that does mean is one size does not fit all. So there's not a perfect mold, there's not a straightforward route to achieving your career ambitions, because we're not all the same. So, think about it in this way. If life is like a game of chess, to win, you have to make a move. In order to make a good move, you have to have insight and knowledge. So you have to have that insight and knowledge about yourself in order to make that winning career move. This is all about knowing yourself, right? Know thyself, a bit of self-awareness. There's a number of things. I suppose, firstly, I think about looking around the room today, how many of us know somebody who's in a job or a career who doesn't actually like what they do, that don't want to get out of bed in the morning, right? Loads of nods. Yeah, me too. In its most basic sense, I guess having some knowledge and insight about us personally and what motivates and inspires us will help to avoid us ending up in that scenario. So, for example, if you know that you don't like manual labor, probably shouldn't go into a roastery role. If you have a bit of an aversion to sales targets, then maybe wholesale isn't the right area for you. But say you love working with people, you love managing a team, and you have a business brain, then maybe think about becoming a cafe manager. Now that's it in its most simplistic terms, but actually we can go a lot deeper than that. So let's think about how we can make some informed career choices. Now, if you Google, you do a Google search for anything like personality profiling or career motivators, anchors, and drivers, there'll be a whole host of questionnaires that you can complete that will give you some insight into what really motivates you and what you'd be great at. What I've got here today is an example of one of those that I'll share with you. And it's based on Career Drivers by Edgar Schein. So feel free afterwards to go and have a further look at this. But I thought I'd just describe the model to you. And there's 4 key areas to this. So 4 key areas that as you're thinking about your personal motivations, they build up a picture so that you can make those informed career choices. So I'm going to walk you through each of those 4 stages. Feel free to have a think as I'm talking through the areas and jot down anything that kind of really jumps out to you straight off. You'll start doing your self-reflection here. So the first area we need to think about is areas of personal interest. So what is it that you're curious about? What things in life are you interested to learn more about? Is it coffee? Is it psychology? Is it photography? What stuff do you want to know more about? One of the key questions I think is worth asking here is, if you couldn't fail, what would you be doing? That's kind of that bucket of area of interest. Secondly is personal motivations. When we think about personal motivations, we're talking about our core behaviors, our core values, and things that are really meaningful to us. So in its most basic sense, are you motivated by money, or are you motivated by purpose? Are you motivated by stability and security in your job, or are you motivated by autonomy and freedom? So there are some real kind of different ends of the spectrum that you can be thinking about this. There's 2 examples there, but if you do a little bit more research, you'll find out more about those particular areas. And it's really interesting, personal motivations, because they can change over time as well. So big personal life events can make you change your personal motivations. So things like having a baby, getting married or divorced, a death in the family, anything fairly significant in your life may well change your personal motivation. So it's really important to keep reviewing these. The third thing is work environment. So if you think about when you last had a really awesome day at work, what were the surroundings and physical conditions that you were working in? Were you working alongside people, or were you working in isolation? Were you in a structured and orderly environment, or were you working in chaos? So those kind of things, have a think about what is it that really gets you going and makes you feel like you've had a great day. And then finally, strengths and talents. What is it that you are really good at, and you do a lot of the time, and you enjoy doing? So I like to think about this in the sense of, when you've had a really good day at work, even though you've been slammed or you've been super busy, you're going home and you're feeling really energetic. That's because you've been doing activities that you're interested in and are strengths of yours. So what is it? What's that type of environment that have been creating those strengths and those feelings for you? If you start thinking about all of those 4 aspects and you start building a picture of what really motivates you, only then can you start making informed career choices. And that's really what we're looking for here. Now, clearly, once you know a little bit about you and what you want to gain from your career, then you need to start looking externally. So how can you start assessing the external market around jobs that are available to you? There's 3 different categories of career progression that I'll talk you through. The first one is the career ladder. This is your traditional hierarchical progression. What's really great, and what I've seen a shift in over recent years, is that the role of the barista has been professionalized. So now you can have this linear hierarchical progression as a barista. So I've given an example here of just what our structure's like at Taylor Street. But of course, that's really great. So what we've got is a professionalization. We've got very specific responsibilities and accountabilities in each of those roles, and recognition of a heightened level of skill as well. But what if, as we said at the start, not everyone wants to be a professional barista for the rest of their life? Then we have to start thinking, where else can this career take us? So the next category of career progression is what we call a jungle gym. And this is where you start thinking, okay, so I'm not climbing up the ladder, I might sidestep. Or I might take a swing and go and do something around the corner that's entirely different. So we call it a jungle gym because we're talking about expanding your experience, your knowledge and broadening your experiences and knowledge. So often these can be sideways moves. And I've thrown up a few examples here. It's by no means exhaustive. It's just to highlight the point. So if we thought about being a senior or a head barista and then taking a jungle gym career move, we might end up as a coffee trainer, because you're still using a lot of those skills, those technical skills and behavioral skills that you're using as a senior or head barista, but you're actually expanding that knowledge. You're not doing a one-on-one in the shop. You're probably doing that in front of a number of people in a more of a classroom environment. And then the third aspect or way of thinking about career progression is something called deep dive. That's what it says on the tin, I think. So you deep dive into an area of expertise or knowledge. It tends to be quite specialist. It tends to be, the roles are fewer and farther between because they are more niche in nature. Again, I've just given a few examples, by no means exhaustive, but to continue that example, if you then had become a coffee trainer and decided, I want to take a deep dive career move and actually really get into the detail and specialist expertise of a particular area, then you could potentially move into a Q instructor. So again, you're still using similar technical and behavioral skills, but you're really honing in on a small area of specialism. So what I don't want to happen here is you to overanalyze or be overly concerned about what roles fit where. That isn't the intention here, but it's just to start helping, giving you a bit of a framework around what some of the possibilities of your career choices are. And what's really important, and I know that there's been a bit of a running theme over the camp so far, so I'm going to reiterate that theme. Going beyond the technical. So whatever route you take, whatever decision you take, and whatever role you go into, you can't be just thinking about your technical development in those roles. You have to also be thinking about the social skill development. And I was listening to the Coffee Jobs podcast only a couple of weeks ago, actually. Michael Phillips was on there. Some of you might have heard it. Yeah, getting some nods. Cool. He was talking in that about how, as a barista, developing your technical knowledge is really great, but there's almost a limit to how much value developing your technical skill brings to a cafe. Let's just take the example of, I suppose, thinking about the nuances and the intricacies of flow dynamics and the relationship on espresso extractions. That's really great technical knowledge to have. But actually, how much added value does that bring to the quality of coffee being served in the cafe and the experience that customer's going to have? It's almost a limit to it. So just like Michael says, you can explore that degree of technical skill for self-fulfillment, and that's really great. But don't necessarily expect to be able to pay the bills doing it as well. And one of the really interesting points, I think, is that this is not only applicable in the coffee industry. So I know you're getting a theme throughout the camp this week. But this is actually applicable outside of the coffee industry too. And I think that's really important to consider. So the World Economic Forum actually produced a report this year, and one of the fundamental findings was that there's a growing importance of social skills at work across all industries and all countries. So this graph is obviously showing the requirement of social skills and how important that's becoming. Actually, what the survey found was that by 2020, so we're talking 4 years away, not very long, more than a third of the desired skill set for any particular job will actually be skills that aren't currently considered valuable in that job. That's huge, right? Then, what they've also predicted is that 65% of children of today, when they enter the job market, they'll be entering into jobs that don't even exist right now. Now, I think that's pretty pertinent and kind of makes you think, actually, there's a whole different job market out there and a job landscape to be considering. So we cannot forget about social skills. So whatever technical skills you're learning, brilliant, supplement them with social skills. So if we know that social skills are super important, we should be really clear about what we're talking about. We're talking about things like self-awareness. We're talking about things like emotional intelligence, leadership, coaching, empathy, customer service. All of those behavioral soft skills, that's what we're meaning about developing here. And if that report from the WEF is correct, and our world is becoming more robotic, arguably a lot of the stuff that baristas do, the repetitive actions behind an espresso machine, could start being done by technology. Machinery could start doing that. And controversially, they could also potentially do it with more accuracy and consistency. That's something to be considering. What a machine will never be able to do, of course, is connect on a human level with the person stood the other side of the machine. So they won't be able to build personal relationships. They won't be able to convey the importance of, or what we're doing in specialty coffee versus any other high street chain. They won't be able to get that social engagement. So really think about that. And just to think about a barista, the social skills and the technical skills along a spectrum, formatting's gone a bit strange there, apologies. Social, obviously, being over there. If we think about the barista who's chasing the God shot and kind of doesn't look up from the machine and is desperately trying to get that God shot, versus the barista on the other side who actually probably can't churn out great quality coffee at high speed because they're so engaged with the customer, it's incredibly frustrating to work with. You've got two ends of the spectrum. But I know that getting that skill and that balance, getting that balance right is a skill in itself. And I was reading an article by Cafe Culture. Some of you may have read it. It was called Selling Hope. Almost forgot. Any of you read it? No? Okay, you should. You go and have a look on Cafe Culture. It's really interesting. On there was an article written by a cafe manager who was saying that he actually doesn't understand or doesn't know why people keep coming back to his cafe. Because clearly people don't need coffee. There's no physical, actual need for coffee. Same goes for cake. So there was no need to have cake. No, they don't have to go in because otherwise they're going to keel over. That's just not the case. So he couldn't put his finger on why people were coming back to his cafe time and time again. Obviously for a whole host of different reasons, but you can bet that it has something to do with that social experience that they're getting. Don't get me wrong here, guys. I'm absolutely not denying the importance of quality coffee and the fact that customers are becoming more discerning about quality coffee. I really, truly believe that they are, and I'm proud to be part of that movement at Taylor Street. But what I do think is that none of us would be in jobs if we didn't have our customers. So we have to get that balance right. At Taylor Street, actually, we're starting to develop training around these social skills and around behavioral skills. So we're starting to do things like more customer service training, dissecting those relationships and how you can be consciously adding value. We're looking at things like coaching and feedback, management leadership skills, all of that behavioral soft skill, because actually we have a belief that whilst we want people to leave Taylor Street having had a great experience and having learned a hell of a lot about coffee, actually equally as important to us is that people leave knowing that they are better equipped for their place in the world, whatever that might be. Now, I don't claim that we're there yet, we're certainly not, but that's our ambition. And then the final area I would like to cover is really thinking about transferable skills. By transferable skills, I'm talking about the combination of technical and social skills that you need in any role. And that's not just the role that you're currently doing, it's also the role that you aspire to do. So how do you acquire the necessary transferable social and technical skills to do what you want to ultimately do? Why should we bother developing transferable skills? Clearly, it will set you apart from other people in what's becoming a very competitive industry and competitive market. I've used Taylor Street as an example here just because I know it's accurate. If you look at the number of people compared to the number of jobs, you have 7 to 10 baristas for every 1 cafe manager. You have 1 coffee trainer for every 35 baristas. And for every 9 shops, you have 1 roaster. Clearly, that funnel is narrowing quite rapidly. So if you are the person who is focused on developing the right social and technical transferable skills, you are better equipping yourself to be in a position to acquire those roles that you want. And again, this is not just applicable to the coffee industry. So super importantly here, this also applies externally, outside of our industry. LinkedIn recently did a survey that I thought was fascinating. They found that the new norm is to move jobs 4 times in your first 10 years of starting your career. I personally think that's actually quite a conservative number. I'd say that it was more than that. But hey, who am I to challenge that? The other thing is that millennials, that generation, so that's anybody born between 1982 and 2000, are have ingrained this mentality that actually they are going to try a load of different jobs before settling on their career. And that's awesome. You know, I think that's really great because it's my belief that you should be able to do that. And you should try out different things that are in line with the stuff that you've worked out you're interested in to find something that you love to do. But what that also means is you're not just competing for jobs with people within the industry already, but actually much broader than that because people are hopping in and out. So whatever the number is, whatever the career choice is, just make sure that you're focusing on those transferable skills. And an economist called Guy Berger actually said, the best advice he could give anyone is to think about acquiring the skills and knowledge that they can easily transfer from one place to another. That's someone who's studying the economy for a living, so I kind of think that's quite a powerful statement. The possibilities are endless. I do genuinely believe that, but I think you have to create those opportunities and position yourself very effectively for them. So thinking about how you can enhance your skills whilst working in your existing role to prepare yourself and best equip yourself for your next role, vitally important here. Just a couple of examples from Taylor Street. We have people who are baristas and are currently managing our social media. We have people who are baristas who are also our marketing photographers. We also have people who are sat on a food council, so they're inputting into the development and the creation of our menus. So it's all about trying to identify the stuff that you really love and finding those opportunities. I think about connecting some of the dots between coffee and hospitality and my previous retail experience. And I think about, if you love the sensory side of coffee, then clearly if you develop the correct social and technical skills, you could end up working as an importer, exporter, lab or something within the coffee industry quite easily. But what you could also do is develop those skills and end up being a food technician in something like a big retailer or an FMCG company. And there are so many of those jobs available, so you can even be looking at how you can develop those skills and those transferable skills into other areas if that's your passion and that's what you found you love. So look, that's just a few examples. If you don't believe me, I have some actual real-life examples, one of whom is in the room today. So Tim, I'm sure you know him. If you don't, I'm sure he won't mind you coming up and having a chat with him about his career progression. But Tim started outside of the coffee industry, so had a successful career in advertising before becoming a barista. and then really progressing his career into Q grading, then managing a cafe, and now is ultimately responsible for quality control and sourcing. So there's a really great example of how you can develop transferable skills from outside the industry and within. Ben, who actually filmed the video for the apprenticeship that I showed you earlier, he's an example of someone who's done the opposite. So he started off as a barista with a passion for film and photography, and is now a full-time filmmaker. So he makes films about coffee, lifestyle, and music. But his big break came because of the opportunity he had within the coffee industry and the people that he met. So in summary, hopefully that's given you a bit of food for thought around how you can think strategically to gain those transferable technical and social skills and make insightful career moves. I did have a video to end on, but we've had some technical issues, so I can't play it to you, but I recommend, if you haven't seen it, do YouTube it. So the video was actually from Jim Carrey, who did a speech. Yes, seen it, some of you. I think this is really powerful. He talks about the lessons that he learned from his dad, who was an accountant, and he never wanted to be an accountant. He actually wanted to be a comedian as well. But never took the plunge, never tried it out and gave it the chance. He focused on bringing stability to the family, and ultimately was made redundant from that role that he didn't want to even be in. So Jim Carrey's message is that you can fail at what you don't want to do, so you might as well take a chance on something that you do. Thanks very much.